All right, so this particular thing which is happening in Africa is something that is very shocking. Okay, it is something that is very shocking, and a lot of people are really shocked that this thing is still going on. I mean, it started in Mali when a coup d'etat happened. It spread to Niger, then it came to Guinea, went to Gabon, and ultimately went to Burkina Faso. And then after this, we've seen strings of many coup d'etat and coup d'etat attempts in various African countries. And the latest to join in is Madagascar. So if you are watching this, news coming in kind of suggests that Madagascar recently had a coup d'etat. And then surprisingly, the military leader has been sworn in as president. Now, this was not a military leader who ultimately said, or who ultimately got up and said, hey, let me organize a coup d'etat. No, it started from somewhere and it headed to this particular direction. Now, why am I saying this? It all started when the Gen Z in Madagascar started demonstrating. Remember that I think last year around this time, Kenya was also protesting. There were a lot of youth uprising and protests in Kenya. But ultimately, because of Raila Odinga and how the country kind of came together trying to resolve the issue, the protests kind of died down a little bit. Now, for Madagascar, these protests carried on for weeks. Remember, the main age bracket who were fueling this particular kind of coup d'etat were the Gen Zs. The Gen Zs are basically a term we use for those who've been born or those who were born between 1997 to 2000. These people are termed as the Gen Z, or to 2004. These people are termed as the Generation Z. And for them, they believe that the country's resources, which is being shared, it's not done right. You know, a portion of people are always enjoying and others are always suffering. Because of that, the Gen Z, they were protesting financial problems. They were also protesting about economic hardship, bad governance, corruption, and so forth. And ultimately, military had to step in, seize the government, and then the president, as at that time, he fled the country, saying that his life, together with that of his children and wife, were under siege, were under attack. So he left, and ultimately the military took over, and this man who happened to be the head of the military, took over, and ultimately he's been sworn in as the president. Now, there is a lot of things that have happened. We'll be getting into details of it. So this is a live video. Ultimately, we'll be talking about a lot of things. Very soon, also be talking about what is happening in our country, Ghana, in regards with Odo Broni, that Lumba, musician icon, that Lumba, in regards with his two wives, Odo Broni and Akusia Sewa, the court update. And also, we'll be talking about what is happening between musician Medikal and also Eazzy, because there's a whole lot of things going on. I'm learning that Medikal just received a bouncing baby boy together. Also, we are also learning that Fela Makafu have reacted to all of this thing going on. So let us start up with this particular news. Now, what you are watching on the screens is just a snippet of when the military leader who actually staged or perhaps pushed through with this coup d'etat was sworn into office. And it just tells you that Africa has a long way to go. So before we even proceed, we would like to go to BBC and see exactly what BBC said about all of these. So sorry, I'm having a cold today. So this is exactly what BBC is saying. So we're on BBC's page, and as you can see, BBC posted a lengthy article about this. Yeah. It posted, or BBC posted, Madagascar's military leader thanks Jay-Z protesters as he's sworn in. So this is the Madagascar military leader. So his name is Michael Randian Arena. Forgive me if I don't get the name right, but then that is his name. So it starts by saying Colonel Michael Randrinina has been sworn in as the new president of Madagascar days after military took over on the Indian Ocean nation. He swapped his fatigues for a suit and thanked the young people who took to the streets for weeks of protests and prompted President Andry Rajoelina to flee the country and for weeks of protests that prompted President Andry Rajoelina to flee the country and led to his impeachment. So basically, Madagascar had a president up until this whole protest, okay? So the president as at that time, his name was Andry Rajolina. But then, because of the protests of the youth, he had to flee the country, and ultimately his own parliament had to impeach him, which means basically he's no more the president of Madagascar. Now, it continues to read: the ceremony took place at the Constitutional Court in the capital, Antananarivo, where a large crowd gathered to watch, including those who spearheaded the demonstration. Today marks a historic turning point for our country, with the people in full fervor, driven by the desire for change. We joyfully open a new chapter in the life of our nation, he said. So these were the words of the current president, who was also a former colonel, whose name is Colonel Michael Wadrina. So this was what he said when he was sworn in as president. Now he continues to read that the former French colony now enters a transition period, which will be full of political obstacles and legal uncertainty. Though there's a cautious optimism about Colonel Wandrina's leadership, Constitutional Court President Florent Rakotorisia has criticized the international community for describing the situation in Madagascar as a coup. So, in as much as people are happy about this, and also just before this report, I realized that UN said what happened in Madagascar is unconstitutional. So UN is not happy with what has happened in Madagascar. But then you could see that the Constitutional Court President Florent Rakotorisia said that the international community describing the situation as a coup, it's not right. It was a president who was impeached, the military took over, and then they have sworn in a person that they believe, or the country believe, can help them. Now, it continues to read: protesters had hoped that Rajolina would simply resign and pave the way for a smooth democratic transition. Instead, he clung to power, dissolving the government and holding a series of dialogues with different groups of people, efforts that were not enough to appease the protesters. So all these while that the protests were going on, people were hoping that President Rajolina would just simply say, hey, I'm stepping down. But what he did was he dissolved the government, saying that, let me just dissolve the whole government. And also, after he had dissolved the government, he was in talks with the smaller fractions, political parties, opinion leaders, rival groups, talking about traditional rulers, that you see, we have dissolved the government, so let's make amends and form a new government. But then that was not enough to appease the youth, and ultimately he had to flee the country. It goes on to read, instead it goes on to read that the protests which started last month were initially organized by a young movement known as Gen Z Mother, angered by persistent power and water shortages. So what has been happening in Nigeria? What has been happening in Ghana? Okay, so last time someone posted something when Hilda Bazi was doing Guinness World Record for the biggest African jollof or Nigerian jollof, and people showed up to that event, and someone posted that I think Gege or so posted that whilst other countries are busily demonstrating against economic hardship, power failures, water shortages, lack of employment, mismanagement, corruption, Nigerians are busily parading around Hilda Baci. So you see, elsewhere in Madagascar, there was water shortages. There was constant electricity power outages. These things were ongoing for a period of time, an extensive time to be precise. And you realize that since this issue has been constant, and each and every time the government keeps promising we'll do better, we'll fix things, the same dialogue, the Gen Z had enough. So a young protester, who goes by the name Gen Z Mother, he organized this protest saying that enough is enough. And ultimately people joined in. They protested, and that led to the downfall of their governments. If water shortages and water shortages and power outages can oust a government out of power, then in Ghana, in Nigeria, and in parts of the world, we are joking. Ghana, let's give credit to President John Dramani Mahama, because he's done well with, the power. It's not really, it's cool, but it's not really perfect. But then, since he came to power, he's been able to put that under control. Water have been flowing consistently. But then in other parts of Africa, Nigeria and other parts, it is worse. Uganda, Cameroon, it is worse. So ultimately, these were the two motivating factors that pushed the Gen Zs in Madagascar to protest and ultimately make sure they brought down their government. And I think a similar thing happened in Nepal too. So let's continue. It goes on to say, Colonel Rangelina was head of Madagascar's elite CAPSAT army unit. Okay, so it says Colonel Rangelina was head of Madagascar's elite CAPSAT army unit when on Tuesday his troops joined the thousands of protesters on the streets of capital. He told the Gen Z demonstrators he was taking power and that the military will form a government and hold elections within 2 years. So the colonel said, the protest has been going on. The president had fled. So now he needs to take matters into his own hands, because you can't have a country without a leader. So he met the protesters halfway and told them that, see, he is a military leader. He's the head of the elite CAPSAT army unit. And then he wants to tell the protesters that he will be seizing power, and then he will ultimately form a new government. And this new government that is going to form ultimately will hold elections in the next 2 years. So we are in 2025, which means in 2027, we should be seeing Madagascar head to the polls. If he does a good job, I'm sure that he will be retained. He will be retained. He could stand for the elections, or in the elections, he could stand in the upcoming elections, and he could win. If he does a good job in bringing the country together, forming a new government, and then stopping the basic things that people demonstrated about. Now, it further goes on to read. Democracy advocates both inside and outside the country hope that this promise will be fulfilled. At a ceremony at the county's top court, Reuters news agency reports that trumpets bled after Rangelina took his oath of office, promising to dedicate all my strength to defending and strengthening national unity and human rights. Wearing an official sash and star of office, he reaffirmed his commitments to change. We will work hand in hand with all driving forces of the nation to draft a fine constitution, he said, adding the electoral reforms will be instituted before a new vote was held. He further goes on to say, we are committed to breaking with past. Our main mission is to thoroughly reform the country's administrative, social, economic, and political systems of governance. After the economy, the new president spoke to reporters outside the Constitutional Court and outlined in more detail what he considered to be his top priorities. He said he will start with launching an investigation into the state-owned water and power company, Jirama. Okay, so he's saying that, the first thing he's going to do is to tackle the issues that brought about this whole demonstration. So the power outages and the water outages is going to order investigations into it. Today and tomorrow, we will examine the situation at Jirama, what is happening there, and what problems currently exist. The review aims to prevent further difficulties in the future. That is our first social priority, he said. The second priority is rice farming. As we enter the agricultural season, we must assess how best to proceed. The third priority is the appointment of the prime minister and formation of the government. So he's saying that in as much as he's going to tackle all of this, he's also going to look at the country's top economic or financial earner, which happen to be producing rice. So he's going to make sure that how best the country can produce rice, and ultimately he's going to appoint a prime minister and form a new government. Now, he goes on to say that the third priority is the appointment of the prime minister and the formation of the government. Like other French colonies in Africa that have experienced coup in recent years, it has been hinted that relations with France may have changed under the leadership with warmer ties sought with Russia. On Thursday, Rangelina attended a meeting with Russia embassy officials to reportedly address serious cooperation between two countries. Earlier during the protests, people had been seen on the streets waving Russian flags, calling for Moscow intervention. So this is a pattern, okay, which has been happening in various African countries. Usually when a coup happens, the coup that happened in Mali, the coup that happened in Guinea, the coup that happened in Niger, the coup that happened in Burkina Faso, these countries ultimately pushed the French troops out of their country. Ultimately, they closed down the French embassies. And ultimately, what they also did was they kind of cement their way to the Russian government. And that's why we see Ibrahim Traoré, he's been invited to Russia several times. Many of these leaders who came to power through coup d'etat, they now see or they deserted the French whole movement, or the French ties, the France ties, and they are now warming up to Russia. And this is something that is very sad, because all across the country, most of the coup d'etats that have been happening, these coup d'etats that have been happening, ultimately, one of the things you realize is that most of the leaders who organize this particular kind of coup d'etat, they kind of push their way towards Russia. Basically, they are more inclined with Russia and all of those. So that is exactly what is really going on in the camp of Madagascar, and it's something that is really, 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 really shocking. But ultimately, we believe that the people of Madagascar, perhaps they kind of thought through and they realized that this was a moment that they needed, okay, to kind of stop certain things and make sure that their country heads in their right direction. And this is something, a warning to the Anglophone countries like Nigeria, Ghana, because usually this uprising is more like a wave. It starts from at a country, at a distant country or a neighboring country. Before I realize, it kind of spreads across. But then consistently for the past 30 years, Ghana have been fortunate to have a democracy with no coup d'etat, and we just hope that this kind of rule continue. So that is exactly what is really going on in our country, in Madagascar, and it's something that a lot of people have been reacting to in this particular country. So that is it. We just hope that in as much as all of these things have happened, it will just be a testament, or perhaps it will just be one of those things that, as a country like Madagascar, they will use it to perhaps this will be a stepping stone for them, and they will use this to basically change their fortunes of their own country. So that is exactly this is exactly what is really going on in Madagascar, and then we will be poised to give you more updates on that. Now, I told you earlier that we'll be moving to our local news. So if you are joining us and you've been hearing or you've been listening to this whole Madagascar movement, we are transitioning to our local dialect, because we have news that we have to give to our people in our local dialect, and it is a lot of news. All right. Therefore, Yamama Kwaba once again about Ifidi Kesi. So now, in regards with the Sewa Broni, any Odo Broni, any Akusia Sewa case, no, Kamia Koye say, Bibi and Sem no Ebo Bokono, Yina was say, Kamwa Sempa. Now, yesterday, the family members, together with the lawyers of a year, the family members, the lawyers of a year, the family of Charles Kojo Fusdad Lumba, and also the lawyers of the first wife, Akusia Sewa, Omunyina, Asia, Ewo Court. Remember, said they went to court to say, Sisiano, a year in Semna, Kosono, say, ye be organize a year no. That lumbe your friend is saying on a particular day, and this particular day on the buy no more patch say day near December seats no. The first wife of that lumba move say enya de papa nempo no mo baby bia sanka wo mo catch or yere na odi kan man kan che or yere no odi kan na mo ne oyere ketwa no aye nti onu su ne buafu a me no ka se odi nsem no akokot na. The lawyer of Akosia Sewa or the Simbia Babe Tuja yesterday, who said, Bra, or movie or more court proceeds. No, we saw said, not just say, Ebimua, and Ebisan phobia or more honor, that's a mubu siri, or miniagia, or just a mubu see, in said, they believe, say, a ye Akosia Sewa, a court no more coyeno, I say, a quamano, and I say, basically, no, it is going her way, and as we didn't Kunima Nessa. Now, if I could see someone a lawyer and no Eddie Tuja, because the lawyer and air patcher say, Akosia, Odo Broni may have had kids. 6 kids with a year that lumba, okay, but then ultimately no in bremu no why and now nene a ware ye nipo nene ware ye ni akosi asewa de ebiana issues so ho ni ade but issues e wo ho nyina echi no o maintain divorce nti we wu a per the law no nipa oye legally legal wife a imbrani hu ni so oye legal wife no e ya akosi asewa e se properties ni ade nyina na se bio ono na nensa e wo so ekoso insam ni de aye bebre because ehun se eye that lumba nebusuafo no mugina akosia omugina Odo Broni afa ati ase na eye the family members too of eye the family members of that Lumba ejina akosia Odo Broni afa ena ebusuafo binom a omoso no omo wo that Lumba ebusuan that Lumba ese ni nua ba peni omoso mu gina ye fe ne sen akosia sewa afa so Odo Broni nko ena akosia sewa enko yen share this particular video of what lawyer no edit to dwa ye babaka ye beto aso because there are various updates eba in regards with this whole thing na ekoso.
It will not be considered by the law because of the certificate I have. You get the point? And so that is why we say that that cannot constitute a marriage. So if they have pictures of the marriage, if they have certificates, it is called bigamy, a criminal offense under our law. And probably we will consider charging the woman for bigamy. And we see how it goes.
You would charge Odo Broni rather for bigamy?
Yes. If there is evidence that she deliberately got married to Lumba, knowing that he was not, it's bigamy. I'm restraining myself because of the minors, the kids. You see, if Lumba gave birth to 6 kids, you also have to protect the kids. You cannot concentrate overly on the issue of wife and whatever. So in all our steps, we are mindful of the kids involved in this matter so that they will not be affected. Their future will be protected. Who knows if one of them will be taken?
My last question is, if the court does not rule in your favor on the by the end of the hearing of this particular case, is your client willing to participate in the funeral process?
It is her right to participate, so she's always willing to participate. You see, if it were not for the letters written, probably won't get here. You get the point? Officially engaging a lawyer to write to her that she's not the one, then she has to fight. Otherwise, we'll not get here. So she's protecting her wife. Spousal right is very important. Apart from the right of Kuna, there's also a right of property. You know that. And so the battle is not just for who to be the widow, but who is entitled to the estate of Lumba. Before Lumba met Akusha Sewa, together they had properties. But Akusha Sewa, the two of them, they went to the US. Abraham bought many Medikal Eazzy, and Akusha Sewa and have you heard it? Exactly. So they work together and acquire properties. And you think that she will just sleep for somebody to sleep with? It don't happen. Would use our legal learning to help her. Guess what is entitled.
Thank you very much. What's your name?
I'm Lawyer William.
Thank you.
Okay, so that is exactly what really happened. But then aside from that too, people are now complaining, say, all of these things are so. And there's been many reactions among people parties. A lawyer and somebody to join, one yard because you see, also be charged your friend is say Akosia Odo Broni for bigamy. Bigamy in terms of you can't bigamy our law more. Let me break it down. Our rare Ghana yembrano so bitima ware back. And that Lumba na or a German citizen too. Germany hono embra our yembra ne say ubitima ware back. Our back no and a monogamy or ware back monogamy. Okay. But then in some parts of the world, who are bibra in Muslim countries who are bibra and no your friend polygamy. What you say in Ghana hanke allow say embra ware more than one and no your polygamy. Okay, but Ghana says we also practice your friend is saying monogamy. Intino so be a ware na okunu ko fechi e ware e we chira. Ana oyin ko fechi e ware we chira. Wo okuna wakọ ware we chi no. Wa ware de dan wakọ ware fofra. Na oni obi assign or call some ware no assign ware fofra. Any friend bigamy. Okay. Aside from that too, oba na wo ma ho kwan. Ema ne ware on. In some cases they can charge you because you may knowingly know say papa na on any train plan. Wa ware de that. But oh the mistress and was worrying na home. And no son, you openly or you knew say nipa na wiring or wiring that now cost wiring. No son, a bit much charge also with the bigamy. But then in this case, at the end of the day, you knew exactly what is really going on in regards with say as Akosia say Odo Broni him said that Lumba warrior no warrior now only posted that Lumba no warrior. Ne bia that Lumba catching is on in the age. I remember say a divorce letter came way back in 2018. Now Akosia say what say or initiate divorce or then sa akomanda Lumba ne busuafo because now from 2013 that Lumba efi Germany in 2013 on see chrome ho biem all can now say ne ba no cry a baby. Na omo last born no a baby because only Akosua Sewa no ba miensa. So Akosua Sewa proceeded to actually initiate the divorce. But divorce, we are learning say it did not end up in court and officially it was not dissolved. In some day bebre, but you could see the same lawyer no because all kinds of amount for bebre, also amount for bebre on social media cast or lawyer as in some more can or who need him ekonechi because or kasa in fact Oshemba do krana a year that the lumba no or ne Akosua Sewa ewa or ne Akosua Sewa 1 ba miensa and on Odo Broni 1 ba 6. Right now we are learning say amount for bebre afre which said that lumba on your ma awo. So that lumba nemba no ye kind nyina we are learning say e cost 17. Actually I say mistress is P one chain. It is therefore in some day bebre yen tie exactly what a year lawyer na san kan biom ye babaka ye beto aso.
And I'm so bema and ma awade who say ampa omawade court na bo ho ban.
There will be liberation. And this case is not circumscribed to Ghana. It's a universal matter. Ghana need be over or Iceland crowd interest because they're born on my way home by.
And I'm so bema and ma awade who say ampa omawade court na bo ho ban.
There will be liberation. And this case is not circumscribed to Ghana. It's a universal matter. Ghana need be over or Iceland crowd interest because they're born on my way home by. And in the union, I push and maybe no be at us. Yes, young Quataro be a Kunachi motor and fish and another Kodjawadi. Our dear a legal terminology. So be a warrior and also be married. Who will be one just a minute to so Bobby Basso Lumba, and John also by Yakuna, a seminar.
Yes, one at Tran or Bre,
and then Tran who did that. Where's she will be your star. Now in Natna, what's our bread? The end of Nisika, we know our brand. I say, fans now, you know our brand. Which one? Your castle, your castle, Lumba, Nianka, over a more momaso.
I know Grandma Mamma Akosua one name in Yanomia, the baby require Lumba fast.
I know the may is not within my purview, will be a man instructions. Tiano person like a Lawyer William.
Evangelist Papa Shi. With the Mammy Miss Out now. Now, I didn't hear more saying and I'm so bema and ma awade who say ampa omawade court na bo ho ban.
There will be liberation. And this case is not circumscribed to Ghana. It's a universal matter. Ghana need be over or Iceland crowd interest because they're born on my way home by. And in the union, I push and maybe no be at us. Yes, young Quataro be a Kunachi motor and fish and another Kodjawadi. Our dear a legal terminology. So be a warrior and also be married. Who will be one just a minute to so Bobby Basso Lumba, and John also by Yakuna, a seminar.
Yes, one at Tran or Bre,
and then Tran who did that. Where's she will be your star. Now in Natna, what's our bread? The end of Nisika, you know our brand. I say, fans now, you know our brand. Which one? Your castle, your castle, Lumba, Nianka. Over a more momaso.
I know Grandma Mamma Akosua one name in Yanomia, the baby require Lumba fast.
I know the may is not within my purview, will be a man instructions. Tiano person like a
okay, it's here for so that is the issue air coso in regards with a year in summer air coso no. Now it's here for a better also with new updates abe kanyensa. In name say a year Edubuahim, a kwabna Edubuahim. Menu can say no nature say the state is having on the state is having a case with him or against him. Basically, you know, Brana or the National Signals Bureau boss, no contracts be any near maybe FFA and SASIA. According to the state, these contracts may finance or inflated figures, no contract figures, no. And what happened was that scan ekudin in chain. Me no cast this a new thing aba. Remember I said now no Captain Smart your friend is saying video be and the two just say, you know, the ain't did one in case no yes then who a year nim anani chino is so simple. It is because the evidence are against a dibwa, you know, a idea and yet sufficient enough, and also no certain pages are be prosecuted a kwabna edubwa, you know, anyhow. In fact, in some way, Bibri, I'm a dream cry on Tiase, and that's sorry a part to say, edubwa him. Charge na esobwe dia bon na nyon nkwa oni nkrofo bi na omuboma yesi omudi bon na na so omuwi se sika no into omu ye be 5 o se 4 na bako aba out say obe testify against Edubuan kwamna Edubuan obe testify against kwamna Edubuan, which means say me chrem wi akwa say me ne wo wo hwe me ne wo yede yakọ court say ewi ade ana ebra mi wi ade na wo so wo ho unhu ye wanka nti wo ye bia you conspired with me at ya say aha we conspirator iti no yede waka ho say me gis kan na ugina ho bi ukra ugi bi at ya say ana wo ye my accomplice nti si ana ye kwa na court air part say okay o ka say okay esan say ya charge wo ye accomplice when this kadum bebre no obetimi a testify against me. And I may just scandal do no. Sinabaya, see be jailiwa. At the end, you be jailiwa. We case no jail na be jailu no. Yen jailu bim. Because you want to testify against a ye nipana ye the case state in the case state the case court against him no. Because you testify against that person no. Oh no, they'll commute your sentence. Nti be jailiwa yen jailu. Be 35 years. 35 years bim. Say ebia. You because it is came into a can be and on your corner deal. Usually, you know, you strike a deal with the prosecutors. It happens that if any plea deal, you strike a deal with the prosecutors. Now, young court, the uncle share a year court rate in Namsan Semnum Abba. Because at the end of the day, you know, there is a lot of things that Akko may per se be ready. What I think Attorney General Eddie Tuja and some of the things are a lot of people were actually shocked that this thing is happening because Attorney General, one of the things is that Opeyesika back. It is at the end of the day, Obitima faculty kwen so and kwen so no when yes can be back and ebe jeli nipa backokrana ayen senda ho a good thing. It yen the screens no so. Or say one of Edibua's co-conspirators, third accused person in the case, has offered to testify for the prosecution against him. So Attorney General has withdrawn the charges against her and made her a prosecution witness. So we are learning say this person a year your friend is saying Attorney General na oka a kwamna Edibuan case no one year charging no sisi an Attorney General information aba say Attorney General obe testify against kwabna Edubuan. Into obe testify against kwabna Edubuan here. Obe testify against kwabna Edubuan here. Let us say the sentences no and charges na dia born ebitimi eyi efi ho. Now straight up yen court ne share court rate na wo screens no so no na at the end of the day yen share in sema koso wo hase. So let's take up with this particular first one na eba inti ye sha osedan. In the Superior Court of Judicature, in the High Court, the Republic, dates now AD, that's 2025. The Republic versus Kwabna Edubuan, Angela Ejebuat, that is the wife of Edubuan, that's the second accused. And a Mildred Donko, a third accused person. And Advantage Solutions Limited, on almost not Sajumeku no fourth accused person. But the third person, a young Mildred Donko, or no, and a Mino Cassie also be testify against a Kwabna Edubuan. It's really. Also notice of withdrawal from prosecution. Take notice that the Honorable Attorney General has pursuant to Section 59 of the Criminal and Other Offences Procedure Act 1960 Act 30 withdrawn Mildred Donko, the third accused person, herein from prosecution in respect of all the charges brought against her in this case. You see, and your party say, it's say Mildred Donko, why not dream say siano case na yedi abano against or no. Your friend is saying case near the abba against or no Mildred Donko no ene Dubuahin no ono aye na adwen sisi ano obeye witness anase obeka nsem a ebekọ against Kwamna Dubuahin na yere ene saa fourth accused Advantage Solutions Limited say jumeku no eluti no Attorney General wa dropping all the cases and our charges against her. Also dated at the office of the Attorney General, the Law House, Liberia Road, and the date to that 15th of October 2025. They be ready in some kakra a woman area na ya twaso. So as you can see, a year dates now on Willie's here, which is today, yesterday, the 16th of October 2025. I see my name, I see the Republic versus A1, A2, and A4. This year, ya amended a year charges, no, and the Republic versus Kwamna Dubuahin, Angela Ej Boating on the second accuser, ye naming A2, and ye made don't corner, Konobe A3, he nephew because he also be testify against Kwamna Dubuahin, and I see the fourth accused in the Advantage Solutions name say Jumekono almost some count. So is the Republic against these three people. Mildred and the also testify against Dubuahin any Advantage Solutions Limited. He name him. You should way Nima also prosecution witness statement of Mildred Donko. My name is Mildred Donko. I live at Oyarifa. Oyarifa is a suburb of Accra. Currently, I'm self-employed. Immediately before I became self-employed. I work with A1 and A2, helping them to run the affairs of their business, including A4's businesses. Immediately before working with the accused persons, I worked with the Universal Merchant Bank Limited, hereinafter known as UMB in Accra. I worked there from July 2007 up until sometime in 2018. I worked there first as a teller and later as a salesperson. I know A1 and A2 and I also know A4, the company. I got to know them at the Cedar. And see, Mildred no sisi ano start kan ni mu nsem ane because sisi ano no de is kan ahia no odi ya ye de sobo se ba be bon e no pa che say your friend Mildred Donko na o pa che say oni bank bi ebro be ejuma mu na oni bank bi eye ejuma sa bank no ni o mu ye ejuma your friend eye Universal Merchant Bank UMB yes na o pa say ono no ankasa oyarefa be de ba ye ne say sometime 2018 or see or Juma or UMB no Universal Merchant Bank na or ye teller kuni nim kakra no be salesperson be mua eno this year your friend is saying A1 which A1 ye Dubuahin A2 ne ne yere na A4 no company Advantage Solutions no na part say 2018 mu ho eno jai ejuma Universal Merchant Bank yen to aso or see, I know A1 and A2, and I also know A4. The company I got to know them at the Cedar Mountain Assembly at the Assemblies of God Church. Herein after known as the church. Herein after known as the church. The church is in East Legon. A1 and A2, in this case A1 and A2 and I am members of the church. I am a treasurer at the church. I first met A1 at the church on his 30th birthday. That was about 14 years ago. Reverend Rengam, the head pastor of the church, introduced A1 to me. At the time, Reverend Rengam wanted me to assist A1 to pay his Thanksgiving offering to the church. At the time, I didn't know the work of A1, the work that A1 did. Into a part to say, Oshia Kwamna Dubuahin, sorry. Okay. Now, a bro Musha was sorry, no, not to say, Omunina qua sorry, Assemblies of God, East Legon. Now, a bro Musha, and let us say, now, also, a bro Ushia, a Charles Dubuahin, no, dear, she was working at the church, or quite sorry, but now, or a treasure, you can't treasure, a sorry, Nisikania, their own or Shesso, and it's or see, do. Or one day, and I say a year Charles Dubuahin, naming A1, Odi ni birthday. That time we did 30 years, so that was 14 years ago. We say we did 44 years. Now, Pacha say, almost of penny of Reverend Wengam, and now or introduce Charles Dubuahin, Kwamna Dubuahin knew, now or per se or yeah the oba for rare because we did 40 years or per se oba for rare, sorry, and now or then share. They say, Reverend Wengam say, Charles Dubuahin, meet Charles Dubuahin. I say, Hona, or this year Charles Dubuahin. Our pastor said, during that time, not only a Juma, a year Charles Dubuahin. Oh, yeah, in some I did too. In some ho, in some ho, yen twaso. Yeah, twaso. Also, subsequently, A1 and I became friends, and I later introduced banking products from my bank UMB to him and consequently convinced him to open accounts with the bank. A1 opened a personal bank account for himself. He also opened a corporate account for his company A4. That was sometime in the year 2010. At the time of opening the account for A4, A4 could not meet the minimum requirement for 2 directors. A4 had only 1 director as the other director on iti omo patche say emua e na one eye kwamna edubu ahen ebeye ndanfofo iti omo beye ndanfo no e na oka say wabo afore ni wi no beye ndanfo no e na so sisi ano de me pese me ye adwuma o bank na pese me catch us bank ne wo product be bre obitima be bio company account obitima be yese ni sese and also ultimately kwamna edubu ahen be personal bank account e wo ho me kwamna edubu ahen be personal bank account no echi no san be ni company bank account Advantage Solutions but na eni nyina akra na oniska say oniska or the be pick 2 directors and I say or say oni omiti requirements na won say be company obi here 2 directors na omiti requirements no yen to aso also A4's record was deceased. To satisfy the minimum directorship required for A4, A1 requested that I became the second director, which I consented to. I put my name down as a second director. That's how I became a director of A4. It was say ebra kwabne dubu ahen eba ye no na say onya obi obeye director because the second director na we wu. Nti e na kwabne dubu ahen ka so ene ye director mame which personally me kra ma ye bida BBA company bi na say me here obi obeye director e na me pe obi a cho no ye mame nti e ho na so okay obeye ama no say eja yi na ye kwa sorry dia ye nto aso. In July 2018, I resigned from UMB after I was transferred from Legon branch to the Tema branch. I have a copy of the transfer letter with me. It was dated November 13, 2017. I wish to tender in evidence in this vein. I resigned because I had been experiencing health issues, including severe migraines. So my husband and I decided I resigned since the bank was not willing to post me to a location closer to Oyarifa. Upon resignation, I informed A1 that I was no longer working at UMB. I told him I needed a new job. A1 agreed to assist by involving me in the operations of A4. I combined the duties of A1. I combined the duties which A1 assigned to me at A4 with my treasure duties at church. Into osi emuana ejuma na oye no or resign ye. Aden na opache say ye transfer no efi eye Legon branch ekọ Tema. Na ye transfer ne kọ Tema na te say emuana ne tie ne ya on ho fa no nti emuana oni ni kunu ekọ adwinkrom say dia ye ne de wo se wujai because wo be fa ka efi Legon no akọ Tema obeba de bia utie oya ejuma ewu a the next ye be replace you what ya say enu nti no oni ni kunu ekọ adwinkrom say obejai ejuma no nti oje ejuma no and what they if anything copy which is an evidence and in this vein no at all. Now aside from that no echi no catch share kwamne dubuan A1 say we je ejuma unti see an obetima aboa na nya ejuma bi a kan ni bejepa and kwamne dubuan say okay no problem me company Advantage Solutions so bitima aba na waba beboa ye into Advantage Solutions na A4 no na company A4 no omo yesu omo A4 no. So in this case no or patch say oni kwamne dubuan start say oye ejuma or ye rounds ema kwamne dubuan into no aside from that na osanso sorry treasure duties Assemblies of God Church East Legon yento aso 4 yenko 4 no so na yenhwe the omoka part 4 no. Or say, however, I received a letter of employment, appointment at A4. Therefore, I never received a letter of employment or appointment at A4. Therefore, I was not given specific duties nor formal terms of employment. I only acted in ad hoc instructions from A1 and A2. However, I was paid monthly stipend. For instance, I was paid 3,170 Ghana cedis up to January 2021. I have copies of some of my pay stipend payments until the commencement of investigations into this case this year. Most of my work was done remotely from home, and I sparingly visited A4's offices on average. I visited the office once every 3 weeks. Into a patch I say, Emuana, your friend is saying, Kwamne Dubuan, Eka so ni be yi ejuma. But the woman say ejuma na kwamne Dubuan ene na ye no na say one mano letter ɛkyerɛ sɛ sisi ama fa wɔ adwuma de bi one man is a letter no nti ultimately what really happened was that ɔyɛ rounds man be mu a na wakɔ ne office once in a while kɔyɛ wi ma no wakɔ kɔyɛ si ma no wakɔ akɔyɛ akitua na ɔgye 3,100 Ghana cedis every month what I say I know say or pay slip me I know say na onko office or de bia na oye adwuma no remotely oye from efie what I say no say omu na wakɔ office 6. Along the line in 2018, A1 and A2 introduced me to another company, BNC Communications, that's Bureau Limited, BNC Communications Bureau Limited. A1 called me on the phone that we should open a new company. The company registration documents were brought to me at home to sign. A1 also said we needed to open a new bank account for the company. He instructed me to get the account opening done. A1 did not discuss with me or made me aware of the operations of BNC Communications Bureau Limited. The only task I had undertook in the name of the company was to make payments and withdrawals as instructed by A1 and A2. Enti osi ejuma na oyama advantage solutions no oyaya kwapim 2021 ni twa na almost 3,000 cedis every month. But emua na 2018 mu ho kwamne duwan e friend say si ano omo be company foforo from babet no BNC Communications Bureau Limited. But then yan kanche ni company no de omo koye your one a company registration documents ne brand say uncle fi no sign on your sign or sign we any kind say uncle be a bank account no nya nyama ni mebi na ni nyina no uncle be a bank account ma BNC Communications Bureau Limited and up I say in all this one no juma no ye wo BNC Communications say okwa make payment okwa tue sika no okwa yi sika juma no did no. 7. As I mentioned, A1 and A2 from time to time instructed me to carry out tasks on their behalf in respect of A4. After, for example, they had on occasion instructed me to facilitate the payment of checks signed by A1 and A2 to third parties. These bank accounts were usually sent to me directly through email. On other occasions, A1 sent such emails directly to the bank and put me in a copy. I have copies of such emails. I wish to tender them in evidence in the X series. Additionally, A1 sometimes instructed me to make check withdrawals from A4's account with UMB and sometimes also from the accounts of BNC Communications Limited, which I withdrew such checks. Therefore, in some day I be pre. Or patches all these swala na science same way koso no ni aka so kwane kotua ye friend say we mame kwane kotua we mame kwana kotua we mame sorry kotua we to company no akwa kotua what you say kotua we to company no akwa kotua nti eno ana na oye nti omu a ni aka say check we ko clear no akwa clear kutua ska we atu we company we account no akoye no say companies na etu ba ko BNC Bureau Communications Bureau and ba ko so ye den and ba ko so ye friend say advantage solution ti no juma no ya ne say okutua ska esanse ya ne director no otimi ko na wakoye den wakotua ska no otua ska ne ba sebi de wo se oye no na wakwa nti juma na odi eno no juma na odi no so kwa no akwakutuiska okwa no akwakutuiska eno ena oye. Now we are trying as much as possible to make sure say menya other copies, but unfortunately no me shame no other copies no mensa anka. So for insomni there bebre I'm trying to see if I can get the other copies, but since I'm not getting the other copies no me sure say at the end of the day as time is going on no you bring more updates concerning this particular case. You could see very clearly say in some na bobani de bebre. So in some de sapepepe eda etie eche say odwen ho kra won entiasie. So that is the issue here. Simple. Hey, sika. The sika ebe nipa. It is for that is exactly what is really going on. Like I said. Akwaso enye sempeto a ye bebo modern de si ha say because ye pese ye de easy bebe the update eba and inti entwa ye ho ye beba sisia na etifo ya sanso aba beto aso. Therefore, in some no dear a bebre, at the end of the day, no, be making sure say, the question in the be brave because, in some course of Ghana, if you don't know, you know. If you don't know, you know, because there's a lot of issues going on in this particular country, especially in regards with a year medical and a year MDK. So MDK, Yama, a course on a brabumu pa. Enya asɛm ketewa nsɛm kɔ so papapapapapa yɛbɛbɔ mmɔden a ne kyerɛ sɛ yɛde ɛho update ɛne nneɛma bebree ayɛ den abrɛ mu a kyerɛ sɛ you could see clearly say medical is trending on social media ɛnyɛ fidi agorɔ paa ne nyinaa ne sɛ seesia no ɔne ɔbaa foforɔ akɔsan ama nyinsɛn aba bɛnka kyerɛ obiara ɛyɛ nsɛm pii I wish you could play a song. I mean, but then ultimately YouTube would take down the video because of copyright. Like, yes, I bought a nyumbia a wahasi amamo. But then ultimately, no, obi ne can answer say we still move. So that is exactly what is really going on right here on this particular platform. Yeah, we making sure say the updates ni na be bremo in regards with medical, fee. Hey, is an insanity. Hey, baby, it is a lot of issues. It ni na so just hang in there, stick and stay, whilst we try to do the yeah the systems no ebeto because it will be here say at the end of the day no we do what is right and also do justice to these issues are so. All right, it's therefore your barber to also with a simple flow. All right, it's for you to also with some for because in some way airban is one of those things that are very shocking. So yes, breaking news kinds are air patches a musician medical says no relationship apparently no on nearby easy baby or more having no a camia quest relationship no all along people who thought say a hype no Any hype, it was real, realistic, and no, and who on the screen. So this is musician Eazzy, Eazzy bebe wengeze ane ninyum backward. So yeah, I don't know. I think say that is it. So we share a screen so this is easier. Isi ana wawo say na onyem. But then the shocking thing no, and now the obi when say medical few. But then this is medical any easy. A bright isi ana omunyi say no ma confirm yet say omudi odobo ma top at top. Just say one ne girl for no omudi odo a enya asem ketwa. So the other pictures ebeba no pictures are and na medical any easy. Omo have a photo shoot just say enya asem ketwa. Now for contest so I think a year by now, and fella McCaffrey any medical or muntim titi a Messi, which I yes story and same be fella McCaffrey or so near Diane, same P. Emma Ichino, fella McCaffrey, fear no mutim club, 1 year economic cassa, Ichin fella McCaffrey if fear ho. Now, if fear ho no, on one could be before for NSCiano, medical, I just say, on a year first lady easy, or no moving to share a year background. I say medical easy, or more pictures and what a bought. Pictures na wo frame mu a ebo echi but then kamya kwa say this love story ni ebi hu so mu di odo mu obebi na bi say oni nwan hype no kamya kwa say yam papa because that story ya not just that story it's not just say be a medical ni fela maka any easy they are expecting a child they've given birth into videos e kwa kwhwe no videos medical any fela maka fu ene the 17th of October 2025 Menoka say medical and fella McAfee. They've increased. They've welcomed a new baby boy. I'm excited. They've welcomed a new baby boy. So a new baby boy. You see a friend. Space. So said that but before the young share this particular video of time a medical. It say or war a year word where you could see say ni niagia. It's a waso ne ba fufuru mu a ne ba no se na mdi kankai edian. Ye de friend no the bad boy no edin a esi abeto dwa se ye de friend space and it is space from pon the bani din eno no ye share this particular video ye babaka ye beto aso. So that was a medical. Just say Nijim. I say I expect. Well, you see, I welcoming a new baby boy. A friend is space from Pong. Now, it's for in some way, cause no, we've all been timing. Your chef Fela McAfee in the social media handles how she's going to react to all of this, and she's definitely reacting. To me personally, meet Maka say jealousy kakra ane. Utimi se mame le ayen ye pa ane. If you ask the sa. say who be na we hu so mfa so a ekwa ana efim sa ebetel pa. So that is, and especially the fact that Medical have been able to move on so quickly. He seems so happy, and all of a sudden I say adia abana kwem ni agye. Then as you say nipa eko brampa okay say no. Now yenko quickly to a year Fela Makafui the Instagram page, the Twitter page, because Twitter no minim say mamele eti hint ne first we posting same bebre, we posting same p ene aka menyum bi ensem o. Hey, things dey. It's very soon you ever call the page of Fela Makafui, and just a Fela Makafui page, she's posted a lot of things, and we'll definitely read certain meanings into it. And yensha in sema Fela Makafui post here obi bitimaka. So Fela's post kind of shows say as a jealousy kakra bi wom, but then obi ne kan asem, who are we to judge? So yensha Fela post here. You see, I know you want official Twitter page. Now your kosra. In fact, they were pinning, so the Fela Makafui are pinning. The official Twitter page. Glory be to God. That is Fela. I say, oh, I'm my old one. Also, Twitter is really disturbing me right here. I'm my old one. But then ultimately, we make sure say you better put screenshots no. Now at least there are two screens, so I'm out. Now at the end of the day, you know exactly what is going on, and also the reaction of Fela Makafui ya obi bitimaka say jealousy kakra then ewum. So clearly, with that you call on the social media handles, say the old feed, but you be picking new feed now ma. So Fela Makafui posti some few messages. Oshe hasi statifia sia. Ne da say how was your night? Slept well? And or some people say I feel like we the youth they overthink too much these days. Is it financial pressure, relationship issues, or something else? Just a pressure and I'm for dream a relationship and a sikasema na and a before. And obe posti say if you are good to people chemically, it's going to come back to you. Never forget that. Into point say oh yeah, your friend is saying oh yeah papa ma amamfua okay. Chemically or pass a kama at the end of the day Yankopon be then obi shout. Now the last post to post here and the last post to post here Showboy the album be a year or say the best friend in the industry so far Showboy and the best friend in the industry so far. The best friend now our industry were posting the album. Now meaning say album no di and no kakeku. Niema kosi okru wow. Di and no kakeku. Osha or say my bestie just dropped his album. Congrats G kakeku. And a track list no. So track list no so the Medikal Eazzy. So we don't know if this is a subtle jab to your friend is saying Medikal any first lead, easy first lead yeah meaning, but clearly you could see say Medikal or Samba was social media. Everyone is really happy, and the fact say one thing too is that today is Shatawale's birthday though, so a very big happy birthday to Shatawale. But then the issue here currently air cost are shocking for they say in all of these things are air cost no, and now yes Shatawale birthday no. The same day, and a Medikal so I want a ba. Ne baffle for cry, your friend is space, your friend is saying, friend pon on your fedi who back within the island, back within the space. And if you see the hey, so that is it. That is it. I just say in summer so on social media, and then there's a lot of reactions to it. Ubia reacting, and then what we want to say is a bad year, a year. I remember one time my father called me and he told me, say, bracelet near the other born said that was one of the moments that's what made super. It's also the whole screen so this is Shatawale, a dear and near I was Shatawale no. The funny thing is a neso and a year Medikal wawu a ne baffle fro and a banner wawu no your friend space from pon, and from the word and share a year how or more yen na it is very clear say a year space from pon no or your bema or your Bema. So you could see this is definitely one of the good days, not just for Shatawale and his best friend Medikal, but then a very good day for them. So this exactly, both of these two icons are just on most screens. So let us know what you think. This whole drama also on social media, Medikal fella, it is not stopping anytime soon. Let us know what you think about it in the comment section. It's for NTB I call a year and some for us because there is a lot of things I was say account and definitely this will be one of the last updates here the Bremo on this particular platform and Sunny be jam for because a near no na Bema me feel fine at my shit, life it delay kakra but regardless no we are here to serve you and give you all the latest updates. So remember more say the life number bro send a TBR na at the end of the day no you can also get to know what is happening in our beloved country Ghana. All right, it's here for very soon. You bet to us right here on this particular platform. There is one last update. You bet see the brown when see jam. So we beg you to please stick and stay. And your systems, no, any internet, no, are super slow. And it's we are updating all of these things. So you best say what I say. Just stick and stay with us. But stick and stay, I think say to be best for us to go and listen to this particular update course on especially a video we have right here. It's here for once again a big welcome from the break. So so many say Asante Hene Otumfo Osei. So there's a lot going on in his palace. just before I may enter studio, I got the information say, yeah, Seychelles, and I'm my friend is saying Shells, regardless of how you say it, or presidents, why invited, yeah, or upcoming president and incoming president, or invited us 2-4 to say Umbra, now it say Umbra ni inauguration. But then something really did happen. Mencia Palace, I mean, say it is trending on social media, and honestly, people are bashing, yeah, the previous and also the current administration for their neglect of Asante 4, and that in part is one of the major reasons Emma Kumasi Force see on move to NDC as a move to MPP so I didn't America a video for courtesy of him so abeto dwane say a German envoy omo eko Mencia Palace as part of their talks with him and a periodic checks on the 2462 bilateral talks near the adeno. Now omo no 2462 at the CDB a true minim and a month for bisa say in as much as good it is sad that these things is happening because how come so too for a bet na hosa ama adia NDC MPP also omo ye ndisi no obi anye ena sisia no otumfo osetutu ode adesede etu obi enim asem ni nyina ne se otumfo osetutu pache se okokumase swami market na project bi wo ho a bepemene omuntimi enwieye nti otumfo osetutu bra oshia delegation from Germany no the two meaning say technical support from Germany for the Swami magazine artisans the one ye mpaboa omo ye say omo ye intade omo hia technical support it for enkuti sema otumfo say to or the two omenim ye ba ye beto.
I look forward to seeing this your current president, and I think we would also look at I need to talk to him and you also about the Swami magazine where we have the artisans there.
Sure.
We want to set up, I think we've given them another land where they can develop that into another artisans shop where all of them will be there.
Sure.
And I think that's a support that they need from Germany. I don't know. So I have it brief before he comes so we can talk about it.
Sure.
It's all for these artisanal mechanics. And in Kumasi, that is the hope of the artisanal mechanics where they're very good. So they can be good engineers in Germany, because they can design cars and do it. It's just that. So if I'm able to set it up here for them, then we can get German engineering to support them here.
Sure.
And trade them here. So I think that's my attention has been brought to that, and there's a German cooperation that is being sought for that. Maybe I'll get it clear and let you know so before the president comes, and then we can discuss that also. You haven't been to the magazine yet. They haven't taken you. Next time when you come, I'll let you go there. A field of mechanics, 4 group, different types of vehicles that they repair. Mercedes-Benz, VW, all the various cars, and they're all there grouped there.
So that was a year or 2-4 or in the bathing say a German delegation or my banning chain or strong if it is possible Omumbo Modiano Mukumase Swami magazine one more year cars delegation sorry one more year cars one more year artisans not just cars in Pabuani Yemenina. They can really be of good help. No Kase no 2-4 if anything or Casa. But then in all of this is a question amount for a party say this is a clear indication say this is a systemic failure because you could see clearly say a year your friend is saying 2-4 like he clear one will be a clear say he feels clear say he's been let down and this is not a very good precedent at Ekoswa at the end of the day yeah there is a on tiase so ensem bebre I just say ultimately at the end of the day yina ye hwe de ekoso and also at the end of the day you be make sure say the who bia e was say you can who say bia ye beka. So quickly you moving on to this particular issue and also trending on social media. I mean no can say Gihawk Gihawk Distilleries a Ghana for a company. Me no can say the government of Ghana on more information echo say you see a 24-hour economy into no most of these government institutions no yen shasiye and Gihok was one of them but me no ka say go Gihok Kumasi branch omo e de aba say 24-hour economy a omo de aba no but juma nkoso because so 24-hour economy you have to have a friend is saying a demand. So for example, Pinaxtv Studios has a juma from Anopa 9 to 8. We are working within our demand frame. Say be anyway, who's en so mo ye videos ebe share, mo ye live ebe share anyway na homachia. And also there's a demand for it. Ye pen kofo so mo ye juma ahomachi and enumra enye ye ya. And I say embo ye ka. Because we know say at the end of the day, the year no you be ho your friend is so. In this case, the 24-hour economy it sounds good in the ear, but then ultimately, it is failing to materialize or bring in your friend is saying any money or any good production, I say any yield. In essence, as I make an essence, a part say, a gihok a part say, a year. A year, sir, a year 24-hour economy. No, they intentionally hired many people. Okay, 90 staff or so. Say omunye de omunye juma enumere more than that. Because we cry another news flyer. Omunye juma enumere, but then enumere de juma no omoye no. Omoba it just say demand no omunya he. Actually, I say for example. Ebi a Pinaxtv every day be produce 5 videos nya a find for some be enumere ejuma na almost some produce another 5 videos but you share videos na 5 a day within an upper to 8 no one more be enumere from 9 to amache 12 no e di boma enya he uyi fima enka hu what the council enka hu na che say adna wo ye no fa so be enu so and that is one of the things that echo some for party say it is evidence said a friend is saying the 24-hour economy for it to be very productive I will see making sure that there's a ready demand for it. In the 24-hour economy, 24-hour economy where is the demand? Yes, Okada for be 24 hours. In the rain, where is the demand? Yes, one more time, be 24 hours. Where is the demand? Maybe to say New York 24-hour economy can work because the demand is there. But Ghana, the demand is not there. That is exactly what is going on. Another news, social house, Giok paying nearly 90 workers at the Kumasi branch for 10 months despite zero production since shutdown of his water bottling company CEO. So this was part of the many concerns on Malaysia. Sisiano, according to Giok boss, some party say a year, a friend is saying 24-hour economy in the for them, no they are putting it on hold currently. I think say better say this are screenshots, I bet 2 screens so because I am paying no can't bibi sisi na say be one for evidence and can obi jan bibi aka say obi jan bibi aka say sebio at the end of the day who can be now kind sema ntro atimase ane who can be ntro so we'll try as much as possible and get some of the in sema aba I say aba aya Gihok for edia babe tuja I say sisi ano bosses no ono ankasa samba opa say omo ka say sisi ano omo put it on hold okay but they are not saying some more cancel production. We are trying to get the needed video every month and I said that particular screenshot but then if you don't get it idea. Okay, I think so. We have the video here. It's a very video now. It's here for at the end of the day. One can say in summer a Gihok boss or the tuja a Gihok for omujuma penny for the tuja ya bar. Like I said, and then summer the bread because it's a periodic updates on the BBC. So Nyanko share in summer Gihok boss or the tuja what he's saying about the whole 24-hour economy, why they are putting it on hold. I mean, no, cause a man for be ebony to say wanyadi. I say, or ye be egu a ye mahama and dima say, obey, be crack, say, can Sanka was say, oh, yeah, then, make it sure say, obe fre a ye ministers and I'll be obe twin penny for any man. So, say, ni if you see, Buabe no meet me there, boy, but you're sorry, and I say, wa mile crash, so I just say, you could see, say, people are not really happy with it. Young could see, Sama, on one casa, edit tuja, ye babaka. What you say, DC?
Of competition. Now it's not coming from the Europe, but everywhere. China, there are a lot of competition. So we started at 24 hours and not clocked. As I said, most of this is short. You are here to ensure how I work. I'm able to let my staff be motivated and feel like Ghanaians. But you had a company that for a very long time were not doing adverts, but they felt they had a very superior and well respected products. It's true. It's true. But as you all know now, if you mention Castle Bridge and Herbafric, I believe if you are not 40 and above, probably we are looking at Abensu and I have Kumasi alone, we have over 22 other products that are competing with us. So if you want to do the 24-hour, it means I must do other things to complement what we do. Otherwise, we'll lock our capital. We'll go and credit raw material, come and produce, and they are sitting in your warehouses.